trouble jumping, shooting, and dribbling. Besides that, I did a pretty good job.
You can't get it all, but you got.
I barely made the team in a small town in Indianola, but anyway.
All right. Yeah.
The language in this is very strong, and the thing that's driving them right now is one of the basketball players has become mayor of the town, probably not very qualified, and lots of kickbacks, lots of favors to his friends. The guy running against him in this town is Jewish, and they think they're going to make the most out of this. And their real, as the present mayor, the basketball player calls it, is ace in the hole that's going to give him a victory, is the guy who's running for mayor who is Jewish. His uncle was a communist during the 50s.
So what's worse than being Jewish is being communist.
A communist Jewish, right, and they think that's going to really just turn the whole town against this opponent. And, of course, it's ridiculous. It's not.
So they weren't paying attention in the 60s, apparently.
They were not paying attention to it, or they were in denial of the 60s, right, put it that way. And that's a lot of what they're talking. And one of the players is also the guy who has all the money, who bankrolls this mayor, is saying, this is not going to work. That's old news. What strikes me about the play and what we like to do at Repertory Theater of Iowa is find these plays that have been around for a while. They're not hot off Broadway. Well, Broadway does a lot of revivals, but plays that we try to find that still kind of resonate today. And I think this one does. Yeah. That whole thing about winning, the whole racial attitudes. You and I were talking before the show about now it's the gay agenda. They always, conservatives want to use this agenda thing. In a way, I almost preferred the old conservatives and racists because they just said what was on their mind. They didn't make any apologies.
Well, and when I spoke against the proposed same-sex marriage ban back in 1996 on the floor of the House, I made that comparison. I made the comparison to the red baiting of the 1950s, yes. the anti-communist rhetoric that was. We took a genuine, conflict, an international conflict, a threat. And made it turned it into something that was a tool for a witch hunt against anybody you didn't like, any political opponent. Right. And it almost seems, I look at this guy, Senator again, I'm not quite sure how to say his name.
I told you.
You said Goofy. I think it's Guth. Anyway, Senator Guth, comparing smoking, to homosexuality, saying you don't go down a one-way street. That metaphor just has so much potential. I really don't know what planet this guy's from. He's from planet Earth, but probably like 20, 30 years ago. He's missing so much of what's happened, and fixated on this idea that there's somehow this agenda. I don't feel any more gay today than I did 20 years ago. The gay agenda is not working on me. I don't know about you, Richard.
No, it hasn't with me at all. And it's none of his business.
Well, it is. That's the bottom line.
It's the bottom line. It's none of his good business. It's none of the government's business. My civil marriage with my wife is a contract, so I always make a joke when she ever wises up and kicks me out that I'm entitled to have her money. But, it's a contract, and that's all it is. They should stay out of it. But anyway, about the play, they don't address, well, they do at one point. At one point, they do use the word homo in it. But that's a small thing. The thing this guy has, and it's interesting because one friend of mine, the anti-Semitism, if it's anti any ethnic or racial group, it's more anti-Semitic than anything. Right. And I noticed somebody
because of the Jewish mayor candidate.
The Jewish mayor candidate, right. Yeah. And he's saying, but this coach, as it comes out, that whole thing of blaming the Depression on the Jews, the international banks, this whole kind of Jewish cartel that was right. That was alive back then. That idea, somebody to blame. How did Hitler succeed? But he had, I can remember my grandmother once saying Hitler went too far. Now, is that the understatement of the century?
Went too far.
Went too far. My own dear grandmother.
What did you ever ask for any clarification?
No,
it's
been she's been dead for 40 years, but I can guess what she meant.
That's crazy. Yeah.
They shouldn't have killed 6 million Jews. Something less than that maybe wasn't too far, I guess is what she meant.
Evicting them from Germany.
Or from their home or putting them in their place or whatever. But I was talking with a friend of mine who said, when he read the play, he thought the anti-Semitism was just kind of out of date. And I went, you know what? When I saw that in 1973, I thought maybe the same thing. My guess is that it's not. It's not. It's more hidden. It's still expressed in more subtle ways, And it doesn't matter what he may be talking about Jews, but today it could be somebody else. If the play was written in 2013, maybe the playwright wouldn't have had this guy Jewish. Maybe he would have been gay,
right?
And it would have been the same thing playing out with these guys.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess people should remember that bigotry is kind of it's a human quality that is easily transferred from one group to another, one demographic.
Absolutely.
Whether it's it used to be the Irish, and if you can look at cartoons from the mid 1800s.
Yeah.
When the Irish were basically deemed so subhuman that there was, the British had no qualms about relegating half the country to emigration and starvation. People think of the potato famine as a pathological, as a blight-related problem. No, it was a political problem. It was an economic decision by the British to basically kill the country while they were exporting, record crops of grain and beef and whatnot.
Yeah.
And and the Irish, you see cartoons of the Irish. They look subhuman. They look like monkeys with pointed caps and pots of gold behind them or something.
Irish need not apply.
There's that. That was my dad's parents were greeted by such signs. So we find one group to hate. It just seems, and I'd love to get to the point in our society, in our world, where we move beyond needing to demonize a demographic.
Well, I think if I can throw in something, and I may be wrong about that, because I think people who want to find to demonize any group will find somebody. I don't know who it is, but I think what's so important about gay and lesbian and transgender rights today, it's kind of like the last bastion. It almost feels like the last bastion of discrimination. And if we can overcome this one, I'm not sure where they're going to go next.
I hope you're right. And it certainly is. It is a huge accomplishment to see us moving beyond discrimination against gays and lesbians.
Yeah.
But, it is entirely possible that we will continue to find other constituencies to malign. Certainly Muslims are a key target for many folks who need an enemy.
Yep.
And who knows what else might arise. But I do think we are gradually, as a society, as a species, moving beyond that type of hatred and fairly quickly. And that's why I like your play a lot, because I think it brings some some historical context.
Yes, exactly.
To the issue of bigotry.
Right.
And again, most people today can't relate to this anti-Semitism. Most of us can't relate to this unless you're Jewish, yeah. Or you can't relate to the. Again, we still have plenty of anti-black sentiment in our society, but we can't. It's nothing like it was back in the 50s and 60s, and and again, gays and lesbians were so outcast back in the 70s. Yeah. They weren't even on the target list.
They weren't. No.
Well, probably the 70s they were, but nothing. They became much more of a target in more recent years. And again, now we have this crazy from northern Iowa. We might as well have elected Bob Vanderplatz to the state senate with this guy's views. He is so extreme, so out there. I hope he goes to see your play.
I hope he does too. Well, he would probably want us to change the language. That's one thing we might be concerned about. Is that people might not be so much against the play, but couldn't you have changed the language? Well, no, you can't. Legally, number one, you can't. Yeah. We'd get sued. Number two, ethically, we can't, because drama is not about, or it can be about many things, but it's not about pretty pictures. It's about how people live.
I think it's interesting to think about this, that on this program, and certainly on FCC regulated stations, you can't say certain words that George Carlin would list in his his 7 words that you can't say. But in your position, you can't not say them, or you do disservice to the integrity of the play.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So if folks want to see this, again, tickets are. You can try it. See, it works a little bit.
Championship season. There we go.
Yeah.
You can get tickets. Just go to our website. It's pretty easy to remember. It's rtiowa.com, and then that will direct you to Midwest Tix, and you can buy tickets there. You can buy them at the door. We're at the Kirkwood Hotel, which is at 4th and Walnut Street. In there, we're part of where the Des Moines Social Club is. We are the resident theater of the Des Moines Social Club, and we play beginning tomorrow through May 5th, Buy them online, doesn't cost you any more. We absorb the fees, or you can buy them at the door.
Great. Well,
If you buy them, if you want to come, our shows tend to have tickets at the door the first weekend, and then it gets to be hard. And I think this one, knock on wood, will be a hard ticket by the second and third weekend.
Well, people love sports, people love controversy, and people love what the RTI is doing in Iowa. So you're doing some great shows. So.
Thank you.
All right, Richard Maynard, folks, with the Repertory Theater of Iowa, joining us here today on the Fallon Forum. I want to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and also Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility for sponsoring this program. And I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show. Gosh, I don't know what it was, folks, the rainy weather or just a very heavy schedule, but I was 3 times at Gateway Market yesterday. Once for a snack and to shop, once for breakfast, and once for a second meal. It's a great place to dine. Also, again, a fantastic grocery store with a lot of food coming from local sources. So, folks, don't spend your hard-earned income for groceries at a store that's just going to ship their profits out of state. Go to Gateway Market. Tell them thanks for supporting the Fallon Forum, and tell them thanks for being a great local business in our community. I'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to talk about gun violence. We're going to talk about immigration, and we're going to talk more about the senator's comments about gay and lesbian, about homosexuality being like secondhand smoking. Anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, folks. Mr. Baber's Neighbors and their tune Ode to Jones. And this segment of our show brought to you sponsored by Community CPA and Associates. We have been trying to get Cheryl Thomas, Reverend Cheryl Thomas, with Iowans Against Gun Violence, I believe. Iowans Against Gun Violence, I believe, is the name of the group. Or Iowans for Gun Safety. I know the name changed. I think it's Iowans for Gun Safety. Trying to get her on the phone, but we are having trouble on our end. Not her fault at all. We have trouble on our end with the phone system today. We were trying to do an end run around that. Creative technology brought to you by my producer, Madison Arrington. Not quite panning out today, but we gave it the old college try, and we will have Cheryl on the program tomorrow, or next week rather, if we cannot get her in before the end of this segment. I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about the background check legislation before the U.S. Congress. And I'd love to have Cheryl's take on this because I have so much, I'm paying attention to so much that I don't get into the level of detail I'd like on something like this. But apparently again, we thought we had a bipartisan compromise on one teeny tiny element of the gun issue, and that was background checks. And again, the further 90% of Americans favor requiring background checks, favor stiffening the laws and the penalties relevant to who can qualify to purchase a gun. I mean, the idea being that if you look at these horrific shootings at Sandy Hook and Columbine and everywhere else, it's usually done by somebody who is unstable, somebody who had already presented plenty of warning signs that they were not someone who should be touting an assault weapon, any gun for that matter, let alone an assault weapon. And again, people support that. 90% of Americans think that's a good idea. And yet we can't get legislation passed in the U.S. Senate. Again, we had bipartisan support for, again, at least that component, background checks. And unfortunately, the vote, the problem is you got some Republicans, including our own Senator Charles Grassley, who in my opinion has demonstrated that he has, confessions. I once voted for Charles Grassley because he was one of two U.S. senators who had the courage to say that the first Iraq war was not something the Congress should authorize. He was one of two Republican senators to vote no. And I told him after that I was going to support him, and I did. And that was back when he had an independent bone in his body. He doesn't have one anymore. It just seems like it's all straight up partisan rhetoric. It's not very well thought out. And you can see that on a number of issues, on the healthcare debate. The things he said relevant to the healthcare debate, not just recently, but even a few years ago, making no sense at all. And again, on this issue of background checks, not making any sense, failing to grasp the gravity of this issue, failing to grasp just how important it is to take some action that helps limit the ability of the crazies in our society to get weapons that they can use to commit horrific crimes. The other problem, besides folks like Senator Grassley, well, I guess what enables Congress folks, senators in particular in this case, is the filibuster. And we don't have that in the Iowa legislature, but the closest you get to a filibuster at the Iowa State House is the minority party talking a bill to death, and getting up and talking for 10 minutes, and then another 10 minutes, and then every member doing that. That can get old on one amendment after another. And there's a way around that. At the Iowa State House, if that happens, you call the question. You say, okay, or you set a time certain for a vote on a bill. We're going to declare that, for example, by 9 o'clock tonight, all debate on this bill. We're going to allow 7 or 8 hours of debate, and then by the end of that time frame, we will vote on this bill. That's how the Iowa legislature deals with the equivalent of a filibuster at the state level. Again, we don't have that. We don't have that possibility here in at the federal level. And so you can get a handful of senators who don't have who just are so out of touch that they're on the other side of an issue, the other side of an issue where 90% of Americans support, in this case, background checks. And they can stop the train from happening. So even though you've got bipartisan legislation and vast public support for moving in this direction, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because of a handful of people who, you could argue that they're in the back pocket of the gun lobby. You could argue that they are just clueless. In Charles Grassley's case, it might be a combination. But again, I think it's shameful that we can't have a simple debate on the issue itself instead of having to mire it down in a filibuster, mire it down in rhetoric that makes no sense, and in the end, do nothing at a time when this country is hungry for some type of change, something that will better regulate the flow of deadly assault weapons into the hands of folks who are unstable and who are continuing to commit one horrific crime after another. So, my grave disappointment with Senator Grassley is only matched by my disappointment with a senator here in Iowa, who I think, again, you can make a name for yourself in Iowa by doing good work, by representing the people, by fighting some good cause, or you can be Senator Crazy from Planet Whack Job. And again, I don't like to throw names around, but I don't know how else to characterize somebody who compares homosexuality to smoking, who uses the phrase, homosexuality is going up a one-way street. And I just love that metaphor, by the way. I think that metaphor has so much potential. And who says other things that are so inconsistent with what we know to be true scientifically, culturally, things that are so out of step with where the rest of us are going. I don't know how this guy got elected. And when asked whether he would be willing to retract some of what he said, no, he stands by it all. With me on the program today, Donna Redwing. Yes, and Donna's going to scoot across the set here to a chair that she likes better. No, we like better. My producer likes better. Okay, there we go. I knew somebody had to like that chair better.
I don't care.
I don't care. You don't care either. Okay. No. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, and in One Iowa, you guys have done a fantastic job at keeping this issue, the issue of equality, front and center. And then, every once in a while, it's nice to have some help. And here you have Senator, is it Guth or Guth?
It's Guth.
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 Guth. Guth. Senator Guth helping out by saying some incredible things. I mean, Bob Vanderplaats or Chuck Hurley could not have said it any crazier than Senator Guth.
Well, Senator Guth crossed a line, didn't he?
He crossed several lines.
To equate a people, LGBT people, with smoking, with disease, with bad habits, just doesn't make sense. We've seen such movement forward over the last even few months. Mm-hmm. More and more Iowans are embracing the freedom to marry.
More and more nationally, too.
Yes, more and more Iowans and nationally are embracing equality. And then this man uses his point of personal privilege in the Senate to say these outrageous things.
I used to refer to those, by the way, as points of partisan prejudice. Pops. But, and sometimes they can be used for a good cause, but oftentimes it's just, again, it's an opportunity for someone with a crazy thought to go off and rant. And he used it to the full advantage in this case.
Well, when he talks about, who I am, let's make it personal, who I am as a lifestyle and as something
what is
like,
your lifestyle?
It's stylish, I guess, but, and really to equate it to something bad like smoking, we sat in our office and really talked about it. What brings a person to that place where he would stand up in front of his colleagues and regurgitate this rhetoric? Yeah. What brings a person to that place? I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. Was it his idea, or was he reading from, I don't know, Focus on the Family?
Or the family leader. Iowa family leader. I mean, this is not that different than what again, Chuck Hurley and Bob Vanderplatz and some other gay haters on the right have said repeatedly. But you're just not used to hearing it. I mean, formerly you would have heard it 15 years ago.
Sure.
Maybe even 10 years ago. You certainly heard it 20 years ago. And when I was debating this issue in the legislature, you heard plenty of it.
Sure.
But, you know, we've kind of moved beyond that.
Well, we've moved into a place, Ed, we've moved to a place where we have civil dialogue, even with our opponents.
Right.
Where we have the kind of professional, courteous conversations that need to happen. And when a Senator Guth comes out and says these outrageous things, you know, I don't even know how to respond, except that I hope someone reaches a hand out to him and helps him through this.
But what I mean, when he says the gay lifestyle, I mean, you and I'm straight, you're gay,
right?
We're both Red Sox fans.
Yes,
so
we are.
that must cross. I mean, we both like a good meal at Raccoon River Brew Pub once in a while.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what other than what might happen in one's bed. I don't know what the lifestyle difference is.
There's a great book called, you have to hear this.
Right.
There's a great book called What Lesbians Do in Bed. And it's, they read the New York Times, they watch television, they might have some Oreos and a glass of milk. I mean, what is the lifestyle? The lifestyle is, pretty much like anybody else's life. There's a place and a space for us in this world. Here in Iowa, we live here. We're his neighbors. We're taxpayers. We go to school. We work. We do everything everybody else does. We pay our taxes, damn it. How dare he? How dare he shine a light on us and say these horrible things?
And he doesn't just disapprove of your, quote, lifestyle. I mean, it must be the Oreos and milk in bed. I mean, that can get messy. But he also disapproves of the risk that you pose to his kids, that somehow you are going to destroy his family, corrupt his children. I've been exposed to the gay lifestyle since the late 80s.
Am I a danger to you? And
no. If you were a Yankees fan, I might say yes.
Sure,
but
sure.
No, I don't feel like. I'm no less straight than I was 20 years ago.
What? If tomorrow everybody who is gay or lesbian or bi or trans were to turn a lovely shade of fuchsia, Senator
Getting
Guth,
a visual on that. That's
Senator
nice.
Guth would be looking at some of his family members, probably some of his neighbors. Maybe he'd be looking at clergy, counselors, police officers. He would be looking at all the people who bring equality to his life. And gosh, some of them would be LGBT, wouldn't they?
Yeah, we think so. Yeah.
I think it's dangerous for him to say the things that he says.
Because they incite other people who are possibly unstable to believe because he is in a position of authority, of influence. He has an opportunity to speak on the floor of the Senate with an entire corps of press reporters available. Sure. And that message can get into the minds and ears of people who might not be so restrained as he is. I mean, he's certainly not restrained when it comes to what he says, but presumably he's not going to be a danger physically.
Right.
But there are people out there who can and will be and who are. I mean, we had an anti-bullying conference here in Iowa recently for a reason.
Sure. Yeah.
Gays and lesbians are frequent victims of bullying.
And what message does he send to those kids who are coming up, who are gay or lesbian or bi or trans or just questioning? What message does he send to him? Yeah. This is what I hope, Ed. I hope that some of his constituents will extend a hand to him, invite him to sit down and have a conversation. I hope that some of his gay and lesbian constituents will do that. I hope that some of our moms and dads and friends and family will do that. At One Iowa, we know that we move forward with civil dialogue. We move forward because we do extend our hand. In Senate District 4, I hope that there are some of us who should have some influence because he's their senator. I hope that they'll extend a hand to him.
Well, you're kinder than I want to be because I hope all that happens, and I think maybe that would help open his mind and his heart a little bit. But I also hope that he gets a primary challenger from a fellow Republican who is not so out of touch I mean, when you represent people, when you're there as the representative of 60,000 people in that district, you know, you should be somewhat close to their ideals, their beliefs. And I'm absolutely certain there's got to be only a handful of people who share that kind of crazy talk.
Well, imagine you take out the words LGBT community. What if you put in a race or a culture, a religion, or a nationality? Let's say he was talking about Swedes. I don't know. Let's put some other category of people there. How polite do you think the conversation would be today?
Yeah.
What he said was inflammatory. What he said, I think, showed some amount of ignorance.
I think you're being polite again, but
and
profound ignorance, I would say.
I've had the great privilege of sitting down with Republicans in this state, having civil dialogue, hearing each other, and having many Republicans and conservatives really embrace same-gender marriage, embrace the LGBT community. So I can only hope that he'll be on a journey that'll bring him closer to what's real and what's the truth. That's all I can hope.
Well, and again, I'm glad you're hoping that. I'm also hoping for a primary challenger. People who spout that kind of talk should not get away with a free ride next time. I don't know whether he's up
I agree with you.
I don't know whether he's up in 2014 or 2016, but either way, he deserves a challenger because he is so out of touch that he's not fit to represent anybody in the Iowa legislature.
And I hope his constituents let him know that. And they're really the ones who can.
And that used to be, there were Democrats representing that district.
Sure.
For many, many years. And so you know that folks in that part of the state, and some of them were more conservative Democrats. It kind of depended on the year and the election and all that. But it was an area where folks can kind of go either way when it comes to party preference. And, you know, there's some populism and there's some elements of more, conservative, conservative leaning on issues. So, I mean, this guy, if he was representing, there are some districts in the state where I could think, okay, maybe there's a strong foundation for that kind of bigotry. But in that area, no.
But is there ever a strong foundation for that? Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're right.
I mean, even if there were a strong foundation,
good point.
It's never
Good point.
It's never right.
Good point.
It's never right. And I think, Ed, this is what's happening. We're winning.
We are, and they don't like that.
People are embracing equality. We're moving forward. And we're moving forward not just among progressives and Democrats, but among Republicans and conservatives.
We now have two U.S. senators, two Republican U.S. senators who have come out in support not just of a general sense of equality, but in support of marriage equality itself.
So is this the
progress? Is
this the last gasp of the dying beast? Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
And it may be, but we still are correct, and I think right, and we have an obligation to call it out, to challenge it.
And we are. Believe me, we are. We spent all day yesterday and part of today. We are calling it out.
Yeah.
People have to know what this man said and what its implications are.
Well, it certainly has found its way around social media.
Yes, it has.
And that's again a wonderful thing about the democraticness, that's a small d, that the social media options have created. So, all right, well, good stuff. Bad stuff, but good conversation about bad stuff, and hopefully we'll continue to see movement in the right direction.
Yep. And I guess, did you hear that when the Red Sox played the Yankees, they gave a shout out to Boston? That was pretty nice.
What's that?
When the Red Sox and the Yankees last played, it was right after the bombing in Boston, and the Yankees gave out a big shout out to the folks of Boston.
Oh, really?
Which I thought
I did not hear that.
Yes, and I thought of you right away. In the worst of times, the best people emerge.
Yeah. Huh.
Even
Very
if they're
good.
Yankees.
That's good to know. I had not heard that. Thank you for sharing. Donna Red Wing, folks, with One Iowa, the executive director of One Iowa, joining us again on a very important conversation about some very bizarre and hurtful remarks made by Senator Guth, in the Iowa Senate yesterday. I want to thank Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling for sponsoring this segment of our show. I don't know about you folks, but last night, lost my power. Of course, when that happens, the furnace stops working. Anyway, I fortunately did not have to call Tinker last night, but if I had, I'm sure he would have maybe been a little perturbed that I was calling him at night, but he would have been there. He would have fixed that thing, and we would have been going again. Anyway, it didn't happen, but good to know that you've got a guy there with 32 years of experience who will come and fix your furnace or your air conditioning unit if and when you need to. So give him a shout, folks, at 371-2114, 371-2114. That's Tinker Heating and Cooling. When we come back, we're going to talk immigration reform and what's happening at the federal level on that legislation.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
The 8th Annual Natural Living Expo is May 18th and 19th at the 4-H building at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. The Natural Living Expo is the place to learn about sustainable practices and healthy lifestyle choices. The expo offers classes and vendors where you'll learn about green building design, sustainable agriculture, urban farming, non-toxic cleaning products, massage, and more. There's no cost to attend, and what you'll come away with is priceless. For more information, visit www.naturallivingexpo.org. That's www.naturallivingexpo.org.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines, and check out ritualcafe.com.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Max Wellman, folks, and we are back to our conversation here on the Fallon Forum. Again, broadcasting live from downtown Des Moines. Des Moines, the cultural and culinary crossroads of America. And don't you forget it, folks, on the East and West Coast. If we ain't got it here, it ain't worth getting. All right, we're going to talk immigration reform, an issue we continue to touch on because it continues to move slowly but surely forward at the federal level. Lori Chesser is in the studio with me. She's with the Davis Brown Law Firm. She's an immigration attorney and was kind enough to join us on short notice today. Lori, thanks for joining us.
Glad to. Very happy to be here.
All right, so we've got some movement on this issue. I mean, for the first time, we've really seen, I guess, under George H.W. Bush, we saw some movement, and then the whole thing shot down by right-wing talk radio. Really, I was back in the when was that?
Well, 2007
mid-nineties?
was the last big thing. But yeah, you mean with George? Yeah, H.W. Yeah.
But now we're seeing momentum. But there continue to be obstacles, and right now, my best take is we've got something good moving that has something maybe some of us aren't quite as excited about, the conversation about additional border security, but at least something seems to be moving and moving this week, despite all the focus on what the horrible things that happened in Boston. So what's your take on what's happening at the federal level this week?
Well, elections have consequences.
Yes.
And, and it's been building. I mean, it's been a process. 2007 was incredibly painful when the last bill went down under George W. Bush.
Right.
And there's been sputtering attempts since then. But there's been a lot of behind the scenes work and also just a lot of, people being more used to what America looks like right now with immigrants here and, people becoming more aware of their neighbors and that kind of thing. So I think the public attitude has changed a lot as well. So, yeah, I see this as I'm not saying it's a done deal and relax, but definitely I think we have a chance this time to really get something done.
We have not historically seen much interest among Republican lawmakers at either the federal or state level in taking any kind of leadership issue to fix the immigration system. We're seeing that now. And is it because more and more people are accepting the fact that something needs to happen, or is it because they got shellacked in the last election and the political reality is they've got to start being more than just the party of the angry white guy?
Well, I don't think it's completely fair to say we haven't had Republican leadership before because truly, both the Bush presidents have been leaders. I think if it were not for 9/11, George W. was very intent on getting something done. And in fact,
fair enough.
There was a meeting set for September 12th at that time, in 2001, with Vicente Fox and his Secretary of State and Colin Powell and George W. Bush, that probably would have moved this forward during that administration. Also, John McCain's been a leader. And there have been other Republican leaders because I think, certain people in the Republican Party realize that, it's the right thing to do. We need to do it for various reasons. Mm-hmm. What I think has been in the past has been that just certain factions of the party have been very vocal against it. So that's made it very difficult in the primaries for people that take this view to be nominated. And then the election, the election results really have been mixed even since I think 2006 or 2005. People that have taken very negative immigration stances have not done well in their elections. But to get through that nominating process, people have had to take positions that haven't, put them in a good place for being a pro-immigration stance as well. So it's kind of interesting. So I think now with that political reality of the demographics and of the sort of general attitude change, I think that people are feeling empowered to come forward and say, yeah, let's just get this done.
But you still have a very strong element within the Republican Party that are opposed to any kind of immigration reform that makes any sense. I mean, Steve King is possibly one of the best examples of that element of the old guard that wants to see really nothing in terms of a solution that works. Mm-hmm. I mean, just adding more yardage to the height of the fence and increasing the amount of razor wire and making analogies to how you fence in your cattle or your animals. It's not helpful. It's not moving us toward any kind of substantial, workable reform. And that element is still pretty powerful.
I don't know how powerful they are, but I do know they're very vocal.
They're very vocal.
And, even Steve King has points in immigration plans that he likes. I mean, I've talked to him and he said, he does realize that immigrants contribute to America, contribute to the economy, that they're children of God. He's willing to admit those things, but he has a very different view than I do. And then I'd say probably most people do about how we should solve the current situation.
Well, I was disgusted to see him politicize the bombings in Boston. I mean, to try to somehow tie that in with the need not to do any kind of immigration reform. Given what you just said about him, I have a hard time understanding, would the real Steve King really step forward? I mean, what do you really believe? Do you really believe something needs to be done? Or are you going to take an opportunity like this, a tragedy like this, politicize it to advance an agenda of yours, which, seems to me to do nothing other than building a higher fence?
Yeah, and I was sorry to see him make those comments, but I was pleased that the senators went ahead and introduced the bill on schedule.
Right,
and
that was good.
Yeah, so I really think we have progressed beyond the idea that we have to just throw up barriers and build a plexiglass dome over America. I think we're beyond that now.
So what about and again, the bill now creates a pathway to citizenship and adds more border security. Some of us are much more in support of one than the other, and if it only was about border security, a lot of us would be opposed. But do you think the border security element, is it acceptable given the? I mean, again, politics. It's about compromise. Is the compromise we get enough to feel good about the legislation as it stands now?
Well, I think we have to realize, first of all, this is just the first shot. This is the first draft. So there'll be hearings. There'll be a lot of discussion about it.
That worries me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could go either way. That's really true. But I think that, there's a lot of things in the bill, but regarding those two aspects, there's things to like and things not to like on both sides. I've always said that the best border security is going to be a good temporary and permanent legal immigration system. Because, as it stands right now, the majority of border crossers are crossing for work. They're not terrorists. They're not criminals.
They're not some will allege. We had a sheriff candidate here in Polk County who was alleging that a lot of them were drug dealers.
Yeah. Well, there are certainly drug dealers, but they're not.
Plenty
that's
of
not the
majority.
Yeah. Oh, and lots of them. And Mexico has just as many reasons to want to keep us out as we should want to keep anyone from Mexico out in terms of crime. We're exporting crime there as well. So, but the majority of crossers have historically been people wanting to work. And so when you have that whole thing going on, it's very hard to really police the border to keep out the people that you really should want to keep out. So the best thing is to have a legal system for people to come in to work temporarily and to do the jobs, whatever they are at that particular time. And it's driven by the market. Since the recession, the entries have been, it's been negative. More people have been leaving than coming since the recession.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, the numbers of immigrants from Mexico in particular are down significantly. And is that simply a factor of the recession? Our recession, or are conditions improving in their country, or what do you think of the reasons behind that decline?
There's a lot of things. The recession, I'd say, is the main factor. We've certainly improved border security. It really is. We've met all the criteria that they put in the 2007 bill that was going to be the big border buildup. That's already in place.
And is that a good thing?
So, well, I have mixed feelings. Thinking when I read in the bill, double and triple fencing between. Mexico is a friendly neighbor. They're our ally. They're our second largest trading partner behind Canada. So it's sad that we have to go down that road. On the other hand, I think that it is a temporary thing because I think as things regularize, and it's not just Mexico, we have to realize, people cross into Mexico to come up here.
Sure, that's a 2,000-mile journey from Central America through Mexico to get to the U.S. border.
And people do it, and that's all about economics. The economy in Mexico is better, as I understand. Of course, there's, the crime element, which U.S. contributes to greatly, but, there's that. So a lot of things are happening at the same time that have made that possible, that the border is the crossings are negative now in a sense. Yeah.
So do you have any confidence that the current bill that we are working from, that we're tracking through as you noted, a very long, tedious process?
Yeah.
Do you have any confidence it's going to come out in a way that substantially improves the system of immigration, both for permanent and temporary workers?
I do. I actually do. I think this is a good faith effort, and I think that people are really engaging. It's not just a war of press clips and sound bites. It's really people are trying to engage. Now, I think it's really important that people continue to engage, and we broaden the stakeholders that are having their voice heard, because there's a lot of things in that bill that are not good and need to be fixed. So, it's a process, and we need to continue to be involved in the process.
Let me ask you two other questions before we wrap up here. One relevant to both of our senators. Chuck Grassley says that he sees it as a problem that the hearings are being rushed, and he said just reading a 1,000-page bill, let alone studying the impact of a comprehensive overhaul, is practically impossible before the Friday hearing. I mean, that to me just seems like whining, because a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, that's being discussed right now, it's been on the table for a long time. Throwing out, well, it's a 1,000-page bill. I mean, come on, you've had time to study the essence of these issues, and a lot of that stuff is just technical work anyhow. Or am I being unfair to Grassley?
Well, it is. They were very secretive about what would be in the bill, although, the outlines of the bill are not that hard to understand. The technicalities, it's about an 844-page bill, but technicalities are, they do have to be concerned about technicalities because they're the lawmakers and they have to understand it. I think I think you can start hearings. It doesn't mean that's the last hearing. I think you can start hearings, but I think it's a good point in the sense that we do have to have a good and fair discussion. I think that if, it's a delay tactic to try to keep it from being passed, that would be unfortunate because we need it to happen.
Yeah, that's my concern, that he's going to raise red flags about every element of the process, and it's going to be relevant to some description of the bill as too complicated or being too rushed or not enough input. But we'll see. And maybe, hopefully that's not the case. But what Senator Harkin had to say, I have a number of reservations, he said, that may have unintended consequences that displace American workers and drive down wages. Is that a legitimate concern?
Of course, I haven't read every part of the bill, but I do know that the AFL-CIO and the U.S. Chamber negotiated intensely to get to where they are now with this W visa, and it was very difficult. I could name just as many reservations on the other side to say, or in a sense, to say that it's what I've read has come out too strict on people that want to employ foreign workers. Now, I think one thing that I really hope we can keep in our forefront of our minds, everyone wants to put Americans to work. Everyone wants economic growth. Everyone wants new business startups and all those kind of things. Part of what has been hampering that is this crazy immigration system we have now. And so we have to look at it in the broad picture, not just does this person take this particular job, but overall, is it going to encourage economic growth, startups, allow companies to stay here rather than go to another country, because I'm really concerned about that. If they make it too hard to employ people here, then people just pick up and move. It's not that hard to do it. So I think we have to look in the macro as well as the micro, and the micro's always hard because there's these personal stories of, well, I got fired and this happened. But, we don't want that to happen either. But I think that if we look at it as, we have a big economy with lots of moving parts, and opening it up so we can have more economic activity is good for everyone.
Yeah. Well, Lori, thanks so much for joining us. I always appreciate your tracking of these issues. And again, I think we're going to see a lot more conversation about federal efforts to reform the immigration system in the near future.
Yeah. Well, I'll be glad to talk about it anytime.
All right. Lori Chesser, folks, with the Davis Brown Law Firm and immigration attorney. I do want to thank Community CPA and Associates. Community CPA, founded by an immigrant, Ying Sa, who has grown this business through her diligence, through her expertise, to be the 10th largest accounting firm in the state. You should give her a shout, even though tax day is behind us. You should give her a shout because it's always good it's never too soon to begin preparing for next year. And if, like me, you've got a business, you want to make sure everything is in order. So give her a shout at 288-3188. That's 288-3188, Community CPA and Associates. I want to thank the Natural Living Expo for helping to sponsor this program. The Natural Living Expo's 8th annual expo is coming up on May 18th and 19th at the exhibition, the 4-H building at the State Fairgrounds. It's a great event, folks, showcasing green building, sustainable living practices, alternative healthcare stuff. It's free. You will learn a lot. You'll probably find some things you want to buy or some services you want to engage. Check them out. Full details on my website, fallonforum.com. Also, while you're surfing the web, go to the Great March for Climate Action. We have a website now, and we are moving forward on building a 1,000-person march across this country next year to demand action on climate change. The website is www.climatemarch.org, and folks are already starting to sign up to march. We've raised a bunch of money. We've just hired 2 staff people, and we're going to make this happen and hopefully have a significant impact on the need to take action on climate change. I want to thank Maddie Arrington, my producer. I want to thank the Webcast One Live studio for providing this space, and thank you, my audience. We're going to take off tomorrow and Monday, and I'll see you back here on Tuesday.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I am Administrative Manager
I am the Senior Technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.